All right, Saturday morning Krug show. John Chapman is in the house. The Falcons are in town. Showdown coming Sunday night. We got a lot to get to. Let's go. Off and running on the Krug show Saturday morning. John Chapman is here, 49er Rush podcast. Travel with John. He's on the road. He went to Tampa. He went to New Orleans. And John, what's next?
And we got Houston next week with Frank Gore. And then we'll be all the way out in New York. We're going to be partying over in Jersey, having a good old time. And so, yeah, you coming out to any road trips, come say what's up, 49ersrushroadtrip.com.
Man, lots and lots of people travel with John, and if I think we can, let me see if I can put the if I can, I'll put the image out there so people can take a look at the. You've got a flyer for that one, right?
Yeah, we've got flyers up, everything, and it's we basically throw an all-inclusive premium tailgate with unlimited drinks, food, premium mixed drinks, you name it. And for Houston, we rented out a 3-story parking garage. We're going to be throwing a party up on the roof. It's going to be incredible, right next to NRG. Might be our biggest tailgate ever, Larry.
Really?
Yes, we are expecting a very large crowd, but we got LED TVs outside. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be an absolute blast with Frank Gore, Travis King, the Niner, Wayne Breezy going to be there. We're going to have a great time out in Houston. So if you're traveling down there, man, come say what's up. 49ersrushroadtrip.com. Get your tickets on the TickPick app. Yeah, man, it's going to be a good time. Kids always free to every event we ever do.
Very cool. And here is the kind of the flyer on it. So like kind of the one sheet breakdown if you want to take a look. And as John just said, you can get your tickets on TickPick, on the TickPick app. Search 49ers Rush, and John's travel itinerary will come up, and you guys can join him and head out to Houston and support the Niners on the road, which is obviously a really, really fun thing to do. We had a blast in New Orleans. We'd like to travel with them one more time this year. We'll see how it goes. All right, we're off and running. The show is brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. Let's get right into, and of course we'll tell you about Sleeper in a bit. Let's get right into the matchup, though. I think this is going to be really an interesting game. The Falcons, I think the Falcons are, sometimes, you make it to the top because you've got genius, and other times you've got luck. And I kind of almost feel like they're on the way to the top via luck. They signed Kirk Cousins in the March of 2024 to a 4-year, $180 million contract with $100 million guaranteed. Less than 1 month later, they used the 8th pick in the draft, in the 24 draft, to draft Michael Penix out of the University of Washington. And it's working, man. They got exciting weapons around Penix now. Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Last year, they were 31st in the NFL in sacks, so they went and got Leonard Floyd. They drafted Jalen Walker at 15. They traded back into the first round at 26 for James Pierce. Terry Fontenot is their general manager. He was on the hot seat coming in to this year. He had to make it happen, or he was probably on the firing squad, and he made it happen. He also nabbed 2 excellent young safeties in Notre Dame's Xavier Watts and Oklahoma's Billy Bowman, who is out for this game, by the way. And Jalen Walker, by the way, is also out for this game. And now here are the Falcons, who they'd missed the playoffs 7 straight seasons. They hired Jeff Ulbrich to come in and take over their lousy defense. And Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbrich have worked together before, and they look fantastic. And here we are. Last year, Atlanta was 6th in total offense, 23rd in total defense. John, they're sitting here this morning 2nd in total offense and 1st in total defense. What do you make of the remade Falcons?
I think they're probably one of the better coached teams that I've put tape on. They are the definition of complementary football, where our offense is designed to help our defense. Our defense is designed to help our offense. And they live off of each other in a very symbiotic relationship. Their identity is run the football. And everything that they do goes around that. Jeff Ulbrich, who was my number 2 choice for the 49ers DC. If they didn't get Robert Saleh, I wanted Jeff Ulbrich. And so I was a little worried because Ulbrich got sniped right before the official Robert Saleh hiring took place. Niners got lucky there, which was awesome. But these two teams know each other. Ulbrich played for the 49ers for a decade, Larry. Like these and the overlaps, Kyle Shanahan said, for about 5 straight years, somebody would ask him, might have been you, who would you hire as a head coach? Or what do you think of Raheem Morris? And he would always say the same thing. He'd be my first call if I needed a head coach. Like Kyle Shanahan and him are besties. There is so much overlap here. They run the ball. We throw the ball. Not the way that it was designed to be. This is going to be a fight. The way that they are designed to play football will give the 49ers fits, period.
It really, when you look at the matchup, I mean, there's a couple things that really jump out. One is that the Falcons bring the number 1 pass defense to town, and the 49ers can't run, but do have the number 1 pass offense. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the Niners offense and the Falcons defense. Atlanta, you pretty much know what you're going to get with Atlanta, and I mentioned this to Kubiak during the presser on Thursday. They play the highest percentage of cover 1 in the league, so it's a ton of man-to-man. They have the highest blitz percentage in the league, and they've got 14 sacks up front. They had 31 all of last year, John. Now they've got 14 at the beginning of the year from 10 different guys. They're number 2 in total defense, number 1 in pass defense. How do you see the Niner offense here? Some people love this game and love the Niners in this game and are saying, hey, you know what? This is going to be fantastic. I'm a little concerned because I'm looking at a Niner team that has been totally unable to run the ball, going up against a Falcons team that runs it as well as anybody and commits to it better than anybody. And then I see the Niners, thing that they do well right now is pass the ball, but now they're going up against a defense that's fast, that's opportunistic, that's got a lot of different guys doing a lot of different things up front, and most of the people I talk to from Atlanta think the strength of the D is the secondary. So what do you think? How is the Niner offense going to fare against this Atlanta pass defense? Why don't we start there?
I think that there's a lot of opportunity for success there with Mac Jones. I think what Mac Jones does better than any other trait is replacing the blitzer with the ball. Like Atlanta leads the NFL in 5-man pressure. Like they blitz a lot, like you spoke about, but it's 5-man pressure. They don't oversell. They're not like a Brian Flores or like that. That's not what they do. They bring 5. And if you go back to 2 weeks ago, whenever you see a blitzer coming, Mac Jones, whoever the blitzer is, he identifies him very, very well. Man, that's where he's going with the ball. So if it's the nickel off the right side, that he's replacing that on the hook to curl hot route. If it's the middle backer, he's got to hit that short crosser. So like that is the recipe for success. And that's what I'm working all week. If I'm the 49ers, like, look, identify the blitzer, replace the blitzer with the ball. Where whatever area is vacated in the defense, if that's hook to curl, if that's flat, if that's safety, whatever, that's where we're going with the ball. And Mac Jones has been great at that all the way back since his days in Alabama. I remember writing that in my scouting report. He identifies the blitzer. Man, you replace that guy with the ball. I think that's huge. Now, the issue for me is, can the Niners do that consistently without the major negative plays? The 49ers offense is the worst offense in the NFL in first down. You go back to their 4 turnover game. All 4 turnovers were on first down. Just last week, I think you had 4 penalties on first down. So can you negate the negative starts to drives, protect the ball, and move down the field? You've got the number 1 passing offense versus the number 1 passing defense. Something's going to budge, Larry. It really, really is. And I truly do think that as the wide receivers start to get healthier, I think Jauan Jennings is actually going to play a positive role for a change in a 49ers game, which would be very welcomed. I think that helps. Kendrick Bourne, dude, he's on pace to break some records. Hopefully that continues. George Kittle's back. Christian McCaffrey's still going to get 10 targets in the passing game. I think your identity has shifted completely as a 49ers offense. You are a passing team, whether you like it or not, and we're going to see that this Sunday night.
The question is, can they get it blocked up front? Can they get it blocked up front? That's the real question. I mean, James Pierce, Ruka Rororo, Leonard Floyd, Brandon Dorless, Anya Mata, Zach Harrison. Jalen Walker's not playing in this game, so you'll probably see more Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone. But they got guys who can come off the edge, and they've got guys up front that can make it happen. I mean, this is a really, really talented defense. How do you think the Niner offensive line is going to fare? And you highlighted it. I was trying to push some of it along this week by retweeting it. But you highlighted the struggles of Jake Brendel. And for whatever reason, the Niners either don't feel like their backup linemen are any good or just have this unbelievable allegiance to Brendel. But it's kind of now or never for the 49ers when it comes to running the ball. This will be the easiest, as far as rankings go, the easiest run defense they will go against this entire or so far this year. If they can't get the running game going here, it might be time for a lineup change. What do you think? And if so, what should that lineup change be?
Yeah, I mean, the last easiest run defense the Niners played was the Rams, and they rushed for 70 yards. So, I'm not expecting things to change. That interior offensive line is a major problem, headed up by Jake Brendel. The consistency is not there. I went through and I counted just all the negative plays just last week for the interior offensive line. Connor Colby had 3. Dominique Pooney had 10, and Jake Brendel had 12. That's 25 negative plays from your interior offensive linemen. It's just, you got 50 plays a game. Half your plays are completely canceled out because of literally 2 players. Dominique Pooney is not right. And even if it is the knee, you can't jump off sides on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. That's not a knee issue. That's a mentality issue. We love Dominique Pooney, but this version has not gotten the job done. Jake Brendel refuses to block to the whistle, never pushes the pile, just has no functional strength to maintain blocks. He gets to where he's supposed to go, just he stops and turns around and watches. That's not the identity of somebody. You're trying to impose your will, and it's not working. And you're kind of wasting Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to say his prime years. I think he's past that. But Christian McCaffrey's out there doing every damn thing possible to give your team a chance. And the offensive line is just completely ruining that opportunity before it starts. So I'm not expecting a positive run game this week, Larry. I'm really, really not, sadly.
It would be nice. That would be one thing to get the Niners going would be if they could somehow, get their run game going. Because if they could get their run game going, I think it would be a different looking 49ers. Let's talk a little bit about, let's flip the card and talk a little bit about Atlanta's offense. They get the number 1 rush offense in the NFL. The Falcons lead the NFL in rush attempts per game. Bijan Robinson's going for 164. Plus total yards from scrimmage on average every week. The average is almost 6 yards a carry, 5.8 a carry. How can the Niners stop Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier? The Niners are a mid-pack run defense. 14th. They just lost Warner. They're going to start Tatum Bethune at the mic. I think they got to get a lot more done up front. To me, the big matchup here is the Falcons have 2 outstanding guards. And that, I think, is where this matchup really, really could be a factor. That to me is the key matchup. Chris Lindstrom, second-team All-Pro. Matthew Bergeron, pretty good player. They're going up against maybe Jordan Elliott and Alfred Collins inside, maybe Kalia Davis. I think that's a big matchup. The Niners have to tackle better in this game to me, that's the key to the whole game. They have to tackle, and they really got to get to Bijan Robinson, or it's going to be a long day.
You look at the Niners last year, they were one of the worst tackling teams of the decade. Not even just last year under Sorensen. It was catastrophic. They've improved dramatically. They're an above average tackling team in the NFL. If you just look at 2025, that has to continue. You cannot be average and win this game. Bijan Robinson's played better than any running back in the NFL, and that's including Christian McCaffrey. That dude is special. But you talk about the guards. They have 2 of the most athletic guards in the NFL. You got to beat that with size and power. Can Alfred Collins go out there and he continues to trend upwards? Another good quality game. Can he make some difference-making plays? And that's what the defense has missed. You're not getting the difference-making plays. The one time or the few times it's happened this year, you win the game. But whenever you don't force turnovers, whenever you're not getting those 3rd and 1 stops, those 4th and 1 stops, it just makes it hard to play. Now, my biggest concern, Larry, is listening to the Robert Saleh press conference where he talked about how Jair Brown has a chance to close the door at that second safety spot next to Malik Mustafa. I'm very concerned this game. I think that Jair Brown is a matchup-dependent player, A-plus coverage. That's what he brings. Not a good tackler, not a positive support in the run game. And going back through last week Bucs film, when Jair Brown, 27, and Renardo Green are on the same side of the field, the Bucs were dominant in the run game. Both of them subpar run defenders. I'm very concerned about that. So whenever 27 is lined up on the defensive right side next to Agent Zero, that's going to be a red flag for me. Can those two players, Renardo Green, Jair Brown, answer the call in the run game? They're great in the pass game. Renardo Green struggled this year in both. But if those two players could step up their game and match the rest, the other 9 defenders, then I think we're going to have a pretty good game and the Niners can win that. But 27-0 in the run game, that is a major concern for me.
So what do you think? How do you think they're going to play their hand at safety? I mean, they've kind of already said that Mustafa's the guy, and then it sounds like the rest of it's fluid. It could be Jair, it could be Siegel. You may see Pinnock, but it seems like Mustafa's their starting safety, and the rest of the guys are kind of competing.
Yeah, fair? I think Jair's going to get that start next to Mustafa, and I disagree with that, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think it should be Marquise Siegel, especially this game, if any game ever. You're playing the number 1 rush offense in the NFL. Marquise Siegel's the best tackling, maybe next to, Malik Mustafa, but that dude, he has no issues tackling, screen game, all that stuff. His issues come in the coverage, which that is a major issue. Not trying to say he's perfect, but I really wish we would see 36 out there to set the tone. Jair Brown in coverage and you're playing pass happy teams, then I'd want Jair out there. I'm terrified of seeing 27. He just seems like he is too scared of contact and just shy, which is crazy because at Penn State, he was a thumper. But for the past 2 seasons, we have not seen 27 want to be involved tackling ever. Like special teams all year, very tentative. And then you put him out there on defense and you continue to show the same tape. Great in coverage. Man, Fred Warner was yelling at him before he got injured in the Bucs game because he was late back-to-back run fills. It was yelling at him on the tape. We don't see Fred Warner yell at players very often. So there's nobody out there to check him now. So we'll have to see. I really need 27 to have a good game. And I'm if I was the Cardinals, Zach Robinson offensive coordinator, that's where I'm going. I'm running right at 27 and right at Renardo Green, and we're going to see if they're going to answer the call or not.
It's funny. Brown was on the Bruce Feldman freaks list at Penn State because of, how much he benched, how much he squatted, what he power cleaned. I mean, he's a big-time weight room guy. He's a very, very strong player. And he was a productive interceptor there. So, I thought he was going to be potentially the total package, and that he's shown glimpses, but we got to see more consistency. The Niners clearly believe in him. Shanahan likes him. Saleh likes him. So we'll see where this goes. But I do expect the Niners to maybe move a Jason Pinnock at the trade deadline. There's been a lot of speculation about that. One of the big stories of this game is that Upton Stout showed up on the injury list late in the week with a shoulder injury that I can honestly say I didn't see. Supposedly it happened at the end of practice on Thursday or Wednesday. I didn't see it. He's been listed as now with the injured shoulder. I don't know. I'm not really sure if I buy the injury or if they're just kind of trying to save the kid's face a little bit by saying it's an injury, but it's only partially an injury. I bring this up because when you watch Atlanta's film, the one thing that jumps out to me is that they go to Drake London a lot out of the slot in the quick game, especially in short yardage and in goal line situations. You see quick game passes from Penix to London, and they had a great rapport last week. Targeted him like 15 or 16 times. He connected 10 times for well over 100 yards, and he's a big basketball player like receiver and stout.
I watched him play basketball in high school, Larry, down in L.A. Yeah, he's
a great athlete, right? I'm sure.
A killer, man.
And he's a post-up king, and I think they're afraid of that matchup, and I think there's a chance, and I'm not really sure exactly how it's going to pan out, but I think there's a chance. We asked Shanahan, hey, can Lenore play the slot? Can he play the nickel? And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. He's proven he's great. He's great at that. So is it possible that they're going to, against the bigger Drake London, put the bigger Diamador Lenore at the nickel, sit stout for this one, and then go outside with Renardo and Darrell Luter? I bring that up because Shanahan also said that Darrell Luter had his best week of practice since he's been there this week. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me it's very, all these practice revelations are always incredibly convenient. They always go right in line with what the Niners want to do as far as putting players on the field. Mac's hurt, but Brock's hurt more because you want to start Mac. But wait, Brock's hurt, but Mac's hurt more because we want to start Brock. So it's like, I don't know if I buy any of this stuff. I think it's just very convenient. It's like, let's just, we have the inside word on the medical. They don't, the media. So we'll just throw anything out there that we want, and they'll just have to eat it. And there's no way for anybody to verify anything. So I'm not saying he's not hurt, but I think the Niners may want a bigger body on London, and that may be the reason, or at least partially the reason, that Stout doesn't start if he doesn't. What do you think? How do you think the alignment's going to go there at the nickel corner and outside?
Yeah, I think we're going to see lots of nickel players. I think we're going to see Chase Lucas. I think we will see Upton Stout out there. And yeah, I would not be shocked if Jair Brown, not Jair Brown, but Darrell Luter Jr., this is where he belongs. Darrell Luter Jr.'s number one thing is how big he is physically. You see him out there in the corner room, and it's like, that dude doesn't look like those dudes. Like, he is huge, and he's so great in the run game. Now, the deep coverage and all that stuff, he played really, really good in the one opportunity he got this year, which hats off to him. I did not think that he had a good training camp. Larry, you stuck with them, and I think that you were right on that. So I think there's going to be some fluidity there, and I think we're going to see some rotational aspects. I want Demo in the slot, but, man, they just haven't practiced him there at all this year. Maybe that changes, but I think the 49ers, especially with Tatum Bethune, are going to keep it relatively vanilla. When Fred Warner went out of the game, Niners had the most basic cover 2 defensive package out there for the majority of the rest of that half. I was like, dude, we don't even run cover 2. We were in base cover 2 defense, 50% of the defensive snaps after Fred went down. Robert Saleh doesn't ever do that. So I don't think that this is the week where you get mixing up personnel at different levels. I think they're going to stick with who they are. And I think that Demo's going to stay on the left side. Renardo's going to stay on the right side. Chase Lucas or Upton Stout will be the nickel corner. I don't think we're going to see a lot of flipping around back there. I think they're just going to stick with what they got and focus on stopping the run, that's everybody that you brought in defensively this offseason, draft and free agency, was to stop the run. Well, you're going to find out pretty damn quick if you can get that job done.
To your point there about the Niners going with vanilla coverage after Fred went out, I saw that too. And it's, I think it's safe to say maybe Baker saw that because Tampa scored touchdowns on 3 of the next 4 possessions after Fred Warner went out with the ankle injury. And then after he went out with the ankle injury, on throws between the numbers in the middle of the field, Baker Mayfield went 11 of 13 for 154 yards and a touchdown. So is that on Upton Stout? Is that maybe why we're not seeing Upton Stout? Is that, I'm not really sure. Is that on, how much of that's on Tatum Bethune? I do think Bethune's going to play a cleaner game. They got him on that cross the formation, basically it was a broken play. Those, and I mentioned this to Saleh. I mean, it's like, this is the challenge of Robert Saleh. You got young players, and young players lead to coverage busts usually. And sure enough, the Niners had a couple of young guys, involved in coverage busts. I thought overall, when I watched the second half tape, I liked what I saw. There was a lot of positives from a lot of the young 49er defenders, but the trade-off was that there were 2 busts and it led to 2 touchdowns. I guess what I'd love to hear from Saleh is, how do you get these guys to play fast and physical and all gas, no breaks, and let's simplify and this and that, and still have them paying attention to the finer details so that you don't have these coverage busts. And I asked him this week, and he's like, look, I just focus on how fast they play. Let's make it real simple and let's play fast. Let's play fast.
I think that's going to continue. And I think that's the right way to go with all these young players. Like, this is before Fred got injured. Like, you got 4 rookies out there getting substantial playing time on this defense. And then you've got guys like Renardo Green. He's a sophomore. Malik Mustafa coming off an injury. He's a sophomore. Like, the veteran presence is D Winners. Like, this is one of the youngest defenses in the NFL, period. You're going to have issues. Now, what's crazy is you have fewer coverage busts than you did last year under Sorensen, but there's still too many. That walk-in touchdown out in the flats, like against the Bucs, you can't have those. Hopefully you just do keep it relatively simple. Keep it simple, stupid, right? And if you do that and just operate and execute, make plays whenever you get those opportunities, that's the biggest issue to me. You got the Bucs fumbling the ball on a handoff in the fourth quarter at midfield. Nobody gets the ball. Yeah, you get that fumble, you're talking about, man, you might win that game. But seizing the opportunities when the plays present themselves, when the ops present themselves, that's what this defense has not done. That's what's got to change.
The Bengals won on Thursday Night Football over the Steelers in a game where Trey Hendrickson did not play. And there's a lot of speculation now that maybe the Bengals this morning, that the Niners really want Trey Hendrickson, but that the Bengals probably don't want to trade him and may not trade him. They've told everybody he's not available, and yet the Niners are in this weird spot. They're 4-2. They lead the division, but you got all kinds of questions. You got Fred with the dislocated broken ankle, done for the year. You've got the Niners without Nick Bosa, who tore the ACL. And now you're sitting there going, what do we do? We got some older players that aren't going to be better in a year, yet we got some younger players that are going to be better in a year. We don't want to give away our future draft capital, but we don't want to give away this season either. And there's been a lot of speculation about what the Niners are going to do. And there was a whole Graziano Fowler list of edge rushers that the Niners may kick tires on. There's a lot of speculation out there. The trade deadline's looming. It's November the 4th. We're getting close to it. Lynch has almost popularized the midseason trade with how often he's made them. There was an interesting article this morning on Niners Nation about how Rand Carthon says, look out for a trade of Arden Key. And of course, this is former Niner executive and former Titans executive.
If anybody knows, it's Rand.
Yeah, Rand got dumped by the Titans. And I'm not sure where Rand is. He might be working for CBS Sports right now.
Correct.
He is working for CBS. Here's a quote. He says, a name that I want everyone to keep an eye on is Arden Key, who's an outside linebacker edge for the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, they let go of their head coach. He's a guy that's on an expiring contract. He played there, meaning San Francisco, in 2021, where he resurrected his career. It wasn't under Robert Saleh, but it was under DeMeco Ryans, but it was under defensive line coach Chris Kasarik. And so that's a name to keep an eye on there because he gives you an edge presence, but he also made his hay rushing inside, which will then allow them to continue bringing along Mikael Williams. So, and as I mentioned, Fowler and Graziano did the whole thing with all the different edge rushers out there that potentially could be on the market. What do you see trade-wise for the Niners now that they've lost Warner? Do you trade for a linebacker? I heard John Feliciano say, hey, they need to add a front seven piece, whether it be a linebacker or a defensive lineman. It starts right there. They got to add a front seven piece. I might argue that they need to add a guard like a Kevin Zeitler and sit Connor Colby, just because they can't run the ball, and so many of their issues are tied directly to their inability to achieve offensive balance and have any semblance of a reasonable run game. So I might start with the offensive guard. But what do you think, John? We haven't talked for a week or so. Where are you on the trade market for the 49ers. There's a lot of, you could argue anything. If the Niners did nothing, you could say, you could sit there, and if you're one of these pro Niners people 24/7, you could be like, that was the smart move. They needed to sit on their hands. It was not the right year to make a move. If they make a big move, they needed to make a move, So basically, there's people out there waiting to see what the Niners do so they can justify it some way or another. But without that, give me your thoughts on where they should go.
Well, Larry, I hope I never give you that. I don't want to ever be the bootlicker type, and that's just not really who I am.
That's not who you are.
I hope I'm not that. And shout out to them. They're making their money and they're doing their thing. And salute them. I want everybody to get paid.
Keep licking, bootlickers.
I love it. I'll say this: linebacker room. No, I'm not trading. You have the most depth of any position group before this season was at the linebacker spot. You have Nick Martin sitting on the shelf. Like, you have that. Tatum Bethune, young. Let's see what he can do. You got Curtis Robinson behind him. D. Winters has been up and down, but Nick Martin's behind him. Luke Gifford coming off a very, very bad game. But, hey, maybe we get Nick Martin in there at the Sam spot. I think Will and Sam is kind of where he's going to play. He'll be on special teams only. So I'm not adding at the linebacker room. Defensive line, 100%. Arden Key makes so much sense. I had 6.5 sacks last year. Only 1.5 so far this year, but he fits everything. Expiring contract. Going to be super cheap to get in here where you're not sacrificing future whatever else. He's only got 8 years pro, which means he's still fit into the compensation pick formula if he goes elsewhere. I think that makes too much sense. Now, is that a home run? Is that sexy? Does it move the needle? No, but the 49ers are in a little bit of a wait-and-see approach. You've got some major issues. You've got 3 games before the trade deadline. I don't think that this is a swing for the fences, go get Trey Hendrickson or somebody. I also have been saying nonstop, the Bengals are not selling. You're not trading for quarterbacks within the division if you're planning on selling off. And I think they're 1 game out of first place in one of the worst divisions of football. They're not going to be selling. I just, not after what Flacco put on tape Thursday. They think they can compete, and but there will be other people that are available that you can go get. You look at Miami, and again, as soon as the team fires their head coach, which there will be more, those are the teams that will make sense in going and trying to get a defensive end or a pass rushing defensive tackle. That would be nice as well. I would love an offensive guard or a center, but Chris Forster and his whole thing about continuity, and I want guys I know, I don't see it happening. I would trade for a center before any other position group. I think that's the biggest issue on this team, but then I would go after pass rush help as well. So I don't think it's going to be a blockbuster deal. I think you're going to see something like a 5th or a 6th round pick on an expiring contract and get that compensation value returned a year later, kind of like what you saw with the Chase Young deal. That's kind of what's going to take place here. I'm not expecting a blockbuster, Larry.
It's interesting. I'm not really sure what to expect because I think Tennessee is the team. I definitely think Tennessee is the team. They have Draymond Jones. They have Arden Key. They have Kevin Zeitler. If you really wanted to go with a big name, they've got the big defensive tackle who's just amazing. I mean, he's one of the best defensive tackles there is. So Jeffrey Simmons. So, I mean, they do have a number of players. I mean, if the Niners felt like, I'll tell you one guy that I don't know if he's a fit or not, is Brian Robinson. I mean, I wouldn't mind flipping him to Tennessee for Tyjae Spears. I mean, I'd like to see the 49ers get their run game going. And to me, anything to that end is something I'm interested in. Zeitler could help. Maybe Spears could help. I'm not sure, but the 49ers just can't run the ball, and they're not showing any interest at all in handing the ball to Robinson.
None.
So it's like, what would you say you do here? I mean, he doesn't. What's he do? I think the touches last week were like 25-3 or something like that in favor of CMC.
It's bad, and I wonder if whenever you get Kittle back, whenever you get Pearsall back, if that changes, because then you have some pass options to where you can rely on using an extra back. But man, shoot, the only touches Brian Robinson got last week were in the receiving game. He got 0 carries. Like that's right. Crazy to me. And he's averaging more yards per touch than Christian McCaffrey is, as far as like the run game goes. But still, you've got to relatively working on offense. I do concede that point, but the run game has to get established at some point. And to your Jeffrey Simmons bit, Diane Rossini of The Athletic, she came out and put out an article today, and she said her source at the Titans said Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons are the only ones that are untouchable. Everybody else is available on that roster, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Arden Key, Kevin Zeitler, and Tyjae Spears might be the kind, three.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take those guys. You want Brian Robinson in a day 3 pick or something like that, and I'll take Key and Zeitler and Spears. I mean, let's talk. I think that would be interesting. All right, let's talk wide receivers for a second. The Niner wide receiver core is getting really, really interesting. Sky Moore doesn't know how to field punts. I mean, I don't know what the heck's going on with him. Shanahan was like, someone asked him, is Sky Moore going to field punts? Like, yeah, he's really good at it. I'm like, well, show me somebody who's really bad at it then, because this guy's catching balls inside the 5, and you obviously don't want that. So you can't say
back-to-back punts.
You can't say he's really good at it, Kyle, when the guy's catching multiple punts inside the 5. That's the part that I get a little angry when it's like, don't talk to us like we don't watch. We are watching, okay? So he's talking up Sky Moore for God knows what reason. Ricky Pearsall's got the knee. I'm not going to call him soft, but he's not in there. Jauan Jennings is really banged up. Now MVS is on the IR. They put him on the IR. He's got a calf injury, so he's gone now. You've got Bourne, who if he gets a 100-yard day this week, it will be the first Niner since Jerry Rice in 95 to have 3 straight 100-yard days. That tells you that's amazing. I'm rooting hard for that because I got Bourne on my fantasy team now. And now that I trashed him, I have felt obligated to pick him up. And he's done well for me. He's looks good. I mean, he's obviously, you guys know what he's doing. And then there's Jordan Watkins. And Watkins, I interviewed him at his locker today, and he's coming back. And I get the feeling he was fielding punts. Maybe he'll be the punt returner. I'd like to see him be the punt returner.
I would too.
And I'd like to see them put him on the field and throw some balls down the field to him. The Niners, one of the main factors, it's like I got a buddy who's convinced that the number one factor with the Niners rush game is not the blocking up front or CMC or Robinson or Kyle, but it has to do with the fact they have no speed at receiver. And so everybody's playing them in like a 12-yard shell, and they have no ability for any kind of bust-out run. If that's the case, then get Jordan Watkins on the field, let him run some deep routes, and throw him the ball. To me, this guy might be the factor that unlocks their run game. And I think he's a good down the field receiver. I really do.
Yeah, you go back and watch his Ole Miss day. I know you're an Ole Miss guy. Like that's you go through it. We chart these players. I think we graded like 300 plus players. And it's like, what is their trait? What is their defining thing that they do? And with Jordan Watkins, it's downfield. Like he stacks corners as well as almost any wide receiver in this class. And everything else has developed since then. But his vertical threat, which the Niners don't have, when your vertical threat and your X-wide receiver is Jauan Jennings, who's probably the slowest X-wide receiver in the NFL right now. I know he's playing out of position. But and then you're like, okay, Kendrick Bourne's our next one. Not fast again. Okay, well, DeMarcus Robinson, maybe used to be fast, but you have not had that. And so you are incorporating something new. Now, I don't think that teams will respect him because he has 0 snaps in the NFL. Yeah, he, did pretty well in training camp and preseason, whatever else. But you got to go out there and say, this is what I do. You have to respect that. Now, Mac Jones can throw the deep ball, I think, much better than Brock Purdy can. So who knows? Maybe you catch them slipping. I will say the safeties of the Falcons is probably the strength of that defense. Jesse Bates is incredible. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. But adding an element of speed, youth, I think that's important. And I think probably Jordan Watkins gets 15 to 20 snaps this week with the injuries. But I like that. Let him work his way in. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. Hopefully he stays healthy, and hopefully he blocks. We need wide receivers that will block. That's a major issue.
Speaking on that front, Jauan Jennings and his sideline spat with Shanahan. Something, nothing. He's probably not going to get paid at the end of the year by the Niners.
No.
It seems like if there's any frustration, and who knows what it's about, and since nobody talks, we'll just speculate. I'll speculate that he's not happy because he's not getting the ball. I'll speculate that maybe Kyle promised him he'd get the ball. I'll speculate that maybe he's got incentives that are tied to him getting the ball, and he's not getting the ball. And like all diva wide receivers, if they're not getting the ball, they start bitching and complaining and making a stink. If that's what he's about, then maybe it's time to move him on.
Yeah, he has not played well. The penalties, one of them shouldn't have been a penalty, but that's okay. But also, like, he could have had a touchdown. One of the plays where I think they were on the 6, he runs a curl route. He was open. Mac didn't throw it. Then he starts to scramble, and he just quit in the middle of the play. He just stopped moving. Like, if he would have hit the flat and mirrored the quarterback, like scramble drill 101, he would have had a touchdown. But he just didn't. And so, like, Jauan Jennings is not playing Jauan Jennings type football. Now, I could talk about the injuries, all that stuff. Guess what, man? You out there, you got to contribute. In a positive way, not a negative way. And the fact that he's drawing so much negativity towards him, man, he has cost himself so much money, and I hate that. I love seeing people get paid. But maybe eventually, you better hurry, because when Pearsall comes back, and who knows with Jordan Watkins, if he shines, Kendrick Bourne, you're not moving out. You're not taking Kendrick Bourne out of this lineup. Like, if you're taking somebody out, it's going to be Jauan Jennings. With the way he's not playing consistently and the penalties and drop passes and whatever else. Like, Kendrick Bourne's dropping passes and got penalties, but he also has back-to-back 140-yard games. He's doing what Jauan Jennings should have been doing with this opportunity, and he's just laid a freaking egg. Like, what is it that Jauan Jennings has done that makes any team say, I really want this guy on my team now?
Sorry about my camera here. I'm just getting it up.
I know we're being deprived the beauty that is Larry Krueger. And
sure
that's, I'm just saying, come on, man. That's the premium content, Larry.
For some reason, the camera, we're having a hard time getting the camera. We'll get the camera up here in just a second.
No worries.
You can hear me though, right? You can hear me.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What's the key to victory in this game?
I would say consistency, man. That is what this team has lacked. And, like, if you could just stop shooting yourself in the foot, drops, penalties, missed blocks, MAs, all the dropped interceptions, all those different things. That is the biggest problem for me, is the consistency or lack thereof. If you just play your way, you're a better team than the Falcons. Even with all the injuries, this 49ers roster coaching staff is better than the Falcons. The problem is the vets. It's not the rookies. The vets are screwing up the consistency. That is the biggest issue with this team. So can they stay consistent? Can they go out there and just be who they are, march down the field consistently without the coverage bust, without whatever else, the drop passes, all that? Niners are consistent. They win this game.
Now I'm looking at my face. I'm frozen on the camera. Unbelievable. For some reason, it's flipping out on me this morning. 49ers, one of the things I wanted to get one of the topics I talked about earlier this week was underrated Niners. Underrated Niners. I put this out on social media. Who's the most underrated 49er in history? And I went with Michael Carter.
I love that.
Because Michael Carter is a phenomenal nose guard. And yet, if you talk about 49ers, nobody will ever talk about Michael Carter. It's like he never winds up being discussed. He's like a forgotten 49er at this point. Who would you be your most underrated Niners of all time?
A couple guys come to mind for me, and I want to say, like, dude, Navarro Bowman is one of my favorite 49ers, but, like, he's not mentioned in the Hall of Fame or, like, the Ring of Honor or whatever else. But I thought that he was playing. There was a good year and a half where I think he was the best linebacker in football. Like, he was so freaking good. I really, really liked him. Joe Staley recently, I don't think he's ever going to get the props that he deserves. But, man, I'm trying to think of, like, a little bit more of a deep dive. Like, man, you went super deep, Larry. I don't think I get on your level, but that's who you are.
I went old school. Old school. Michael Carter was one of my favorites back in the day.
Yeah, he was an absolute stud. So I think that they're The problem, and it's a good problem to have with the 49ers, is like, we go to all these stadiums and, with our road trips and whatever else, and you go to Seattle and they have Matt Hasselbeck in their Ring of Honor. Like, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like a jerk or whatever else, but like, are we freaking serious? Are we being serious? Matt Hasselbeck? Like, good dude, decent player. But like, dude, I'd take Jeff Garcia 10 times out of 10 on that, dude. And Jeff Garcia might be the 6th or 7th or 8th best quarterback that this franchise has had. Like, we are spoiled. If you're a Niners fan or followed the Niners, unbelievable. Get into a conversation of the best linebackers in 49ers history. Good gosh, man, that's going to come out. People are going to come out swinging because there's just so many greats that are there. So just absolutely spoiled.
John, tell people what you got cooking this week. We're going to cut it short right here so I can figure out my camera situation. But I'm sorry that I don't know what we got to do something with the camera today. We obviously are having some issue with it, and for some reason I can't get this thing back going. Give me your thoughts on what we're going to see Sunday night.
I think it's going to be a ugly, fun game, and it's going to be back and forth. I do think it's going to come down to one possession. The 49ers are currently favored by 2. Either team could win this, and the Falcons are not consistent either. Remember, 2 weeks ago, they lost 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. I understand if you recency bias is what kind of takes place in this platform and whatever else. But hey, just because they won their last 2 games, this is not a complete team. They still have a lot of inconsistencies. Let's see what happens. I think the Niners should win this game, but they have to go take it. This idea of being passive and just getting through things and whatever else, no. I want aggressiveness. I want attacking. I want to set the freaking tone. I want to go out there and do what the hell it is you're supposed to do and attack this team. Does George Kittle coming back help? All those things, we'll see. But, man, it's going to be fun. Can't wait. Larry, you're the best. I appreciate you having me on as always. And I can't see your beautiful face.
I know.
But I can imagine the glory that is Larry Krueger.
Unbelievable. Well, for some reason, we're having camera issues. But we should tell you, 49er football season presented by Sleeper, the fastest-growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, I'm jumping over on the radio here in 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll get the camera fixed. John, have a great week. We will talk to you next week. It's always a pleasure to wrap with you, my friend. I like the Niners to win this game, but I don't love them. I think this is the game they're going to have to get the run game going. And if they can get the run game going, I think they got a shot. But I'm nervous about this game because I think the 49ers are limping, and I think this Falcons team is kind of strutting, and I'm a little concerned. But we will see. For John, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon'